We have the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, who is airborne right now, leading a government and family delegation to repatriate the remains of a former PM, Raila Odinga. And they are expected back in the country tomorrow. We just want to put tails to the flight that they're on right now, or the flight tracker. As you can see it there, we have the Kenya Airways flight that is Kilo Quebec Alpha 202 Bravo 738 that is airborne right now, and carrying the delegation that we have most of our legislators there, almost 30 of them, that they are aboard that particular plane heading to India. Remember, as we were reminded or advised by the Deputy President, that they'll have a grand hours of 2 hours once they land in Mumbai, and tomorrow at 8:30 they will be back here with the casket that is bearing the body of the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga. So that will be received by the President alongside Raila's family, and then that body will be taken to the Lee Funeral Home. Also, we'll have the public viewing later when it is taken within the presence of Parliament, and that will be happening from 12 to 5 p.m. And also, many Kenyans who are supporters of Raila Odinga and they're not able maybe to come and have the public viewing, you are also reminded that public grieving places will be created, as they will later announce where these particular big screens will be as from tomorrow. After the public viewing, the body will return to Lee Funeral Home, and on Friday we'll have the state funeral. Service will be also, that service will be held at Nyayo National Stadium, and we're expecting dignitaries and VVIPs from outside the country, and that will be conducted also in accordance with the state protocol and in accordance with the stature befitting the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, befitting a hero. All right, I just want to show you what is fresh off the press as well today. This will be happening tomorrow. So this is a publication of a Star, and this is what it is holding. That is a giant of democracy. And you can see the unflappable smile of Raila Odinga. I will surely miss this smile, right? It looks like a very cheeky smile. Yeah. 1945, 2025, right. Honorable Raila Odinga, a giant of democracy indeed. As I mentioned, he has consolidated, he has deepened democracy in this country, looking and hacking back into history of where we're coming from. Him also being in the slumbers as well, where he suffered a lot through the torture, the Nyayo, of course, house chambers as well, where he was tortured. This man has gone through the trenches for Kenya to be where it is today. And this is tomorrow's publication of a Star. And also looking at the flagger on top there, we have, or the teaser there, we have transitioned Raila to be buried on Saturday, as Ruto declares 7 days of mourning. Right, there's a typo there. And you can follow the story on page 2 of the publication. Also, influence, Raila Odinga, Kenya's most consequential politician in history. Right, I heard from the Deputy President, the burial is supposed to be on Sunday, isn't it? Not on Saturday. Yeah, so yes, that's the correction there. If I had it right, that the burial will be on Sunday. And you can follow the story on page 2 of the publication. Right, if we look at this particular picture, Senate Council Okongo Mogini, Jennifer Shamala, we're still holding court to the panelist, and Senator Richard Onyonka. This is where now we had KANU swallowing NDP. Yes, if you may just give us a snippet. Do you have any bearing of this, what was really happening here? Richard Onyonka. I think we were to circle back with you. But before I even go on with this particular picture, it is a few weeks we were with you in the studio.
Yes.
And we looked at this particular picture, and this was in February 1994.
Yes.
Raila was burying his dad. And the caption that was on this particular picture was about the sons of fallen heroes. So we had, this is Peter Mboya, and you also spoke, you spoke quite glowingly about Peter Mboya, the son of a late Tom Mboya. The skinny man, you can identify him? Very skinny.
Skaunye.
The Skaunye. Jadal Skaunye is there. And now we have Raila. Yes.
I was saying that picture has very interesting memories for me. One,
yes.
Actually, that is when Uhuru was being thrown into the game. Because you see, the Kenyatta family at that time, there was a discussion, and I don't know the actual facts of this. There was a discussion that there was a need for, because of the historical issues that existed between the Kenyatta family and the Jaramogi family. The parents had kind of mellowed after Moi took over. And there was this constant nagging politically. Are we still going to continue with these historical issues? Or are you people going to get together and figure out how we are going to accommodate each other? And that time, when Peter and company, you see,
yes.
Peter was the late Thomas Joseph Mboya's son, who already, who had been killed. And Mzee Kenyatta was blamed for that. And you are seeing Peter sitting with Uhuru Kenyatta, who's Kenyatta's son, and you see Peter was a classmate of Uhuru in St. Mary's Primary School. So these kids knew each other, they understood each other, and at some point they agreed to move on. But again, very unfortunately, after this incident, I think it was 95, if I'm not wrong,
94.
Peter Mboya died
in 95, okay.
in a motorbike accident around Limuru. And it was very disheartening for me because he went to school in Cardinal Tunga High School and he used to live in my home. Yes, because my father kind of adopted. Even when Mboya died, you see, my father was appointed the Minister for Planning. So he moved even into Mboya's house. We moved the family. We picked Mboya's driver, a gentleman called Omari from Kindu Bay, the houseboy. We continued working. And my dad was really very close to Pamela Mboya, and because of the historical issues of this matter. But as I said, Peter died and Uhuru continued. And the distinction, what makes Raila very different, and I keep telling people this, and this is my experience about being in politics, and I'm sure Honorable Kongo Mogeni and Madam Shamala will agree with me.
Yes.
At some point, Dibal,
yes,
there are certain people you just forget and forgive. I mean, there are certain people you forgive and don't forget. There are certain things which you forgive, but you don't forget. And I learned that Raila's strongest position as a politician, I knew Raila had a fight with Kibaki. They ended up agreeing. You had Kiraito, who used to be his friend during the struggles. They were all there. These all people were all friends. They would disagree on a certain issue. I mean, look at how many times Raila disagreed with Kalonzo. And at the end of it, we'll still end up convincing Kalonzo, can you please run with me? Because I've seen your value. And those are the things I think history will be left to read through and judge who really Raila was and what he stood for. But to me, I believed in what I learned when I joined ODM. If I am going to be in ODM or a serious party for that matter, and you do not discuss good governance, and you are not talking about the sanctity of public funds.
Yes.
If you are not giving your people healthcare services, if these people are not getting drinking water, then what are we discussing? So these things were brought by Raila. I understand the complexity of government, especially the Kenyan government. It was not easy. Even when we were in the coalition government, there were constant fights about who wants what, and Raila was frequently admonishing people even in public. He says, what is this you're doing? You're stealing maize for 2 million. when we want to bring Konza City, you know, I mean, he would bring those issues, and there was a discipline in the group. If you look at the corruption incidents during the coalition government, they were really minuscule with what happened after that or what has happened since then. And for me, this whole Raila narrative and his having been in Kenya and his history is for the children to read and figure out whether really he was a statesman. And my honest view and my conclusion after spending some time with him and being in the politics for the last 20 years or more is that the guy was a statesman, very funny. I mean, if you listen to Raila's jokes, very funny. Very. And the other thing that I found quite magnanimously about him, Raila was thorough on data and facts. All right, I remember once we were in Honorable James Ungwai's home, and I brought up the issue of universal income when we were discussing whether ODM will bring the 6,000 for youths and youth empowerment, or whether it will be 10,000. And I was talking about it, and Raila said, no, we looked at that model. If we reduce it, we start with 3 and then move to 5. Gradually, even the World Bank can support this. Then we're going through the figures. I mean, you could see that in public, in private company of governors and political leaders, Raila was always willing to engage intellectually on any matter affecting Kenya, whether it is doing roads on concrete, like this beautiful road that was named after him. Raila was always talking about that.
Yes.
What happened to it? I don't know. And all these upgrading of the slum neighborhoods and all those things were constantly being raised by him. And unfortunately, and many Kenyans forget this, there were days when you were a member of the opposition, there was nothing you could deliver to your constituents. You were marginalized, you were always victimized, you were, and this is the narrative that was dumped on Raila. And yet, constantly, Raila was always talking about, can we change this? Can we bring this up? Can you create, look at the free education narrative. Yes, Kibaki provided it, but the impetus was actually coming from Raila and the ODM, because we believed in the social welfare system of introducing education for the marginalized and the people who are destitute. And that, for me, was the center of the argument in ODM. If ODM continues with that narrative, the values stand for what is right for the country, criticize the government fairly and reasonably, don't go petty on the issues, then people will begin to look at ODM as a very, very serious party, or any other party for that matter. And the experience I have, finally, is every single time you would hear Raila talk about democracy. What is democracy? It's a give and take. Sometimes you make decisions on very complex, very painful things, but you must be able to see what the other side is requiring or asking for, and then you give some so that you meet in the middle. And that's how I understood his politics.
All right.
The politics of the middle is always better than the politics of the winner taking it all, or the politics of you being on the other side where you're always talking about all these other things. So he's left a legacy, I believe, that is quite good.
Indeed. I wanted just to come to Senior Counsel Okongo Mogini. One of the overarching character of Raila Odinga was he was very trusting. Very trusting. And we've seen the way he would trust, also that was his weakest point, because maybe some of even the political operatives around him took advantage of that. How do you think this sense of his character worked against him? Because of course everyone wants a leader who is, you know, you can trust me.